here with our third episode of Behind the Culture with head coach Jim Flannery. Coach, first and foremost, I'm a little surprised they haven't canceled or replaced the host after the first two episodes. But welcome back, and thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, I don't know why we we keep going with you. And the other thing I want to point out is these chairs are way too comfortable. At some point during one of these episodes, I'm probably going to fall asleep. So I don't think it'll be today, though.
I want to remind everybody, we record these episodes on Tuesdays, so we're going to talk a little bit about the next game being Connecticut, because it's going to be dropped on a Friday. So in between, we'll play Butler. But let's first reflect a little bit. You had an opportunity to do some practice and have a chance to work on your own team with a week off, and then you played DePaul. Just give everybody a little bit of review of how you felt that the team played and that game against DePaul went.
Yeah, well, you're right. We had 7 days in between games, which is rare. I mean, we'll have another one of those in 2.5 weeks or so, I think, where we have a week in between games. But coaches like that because we get a chance to work on just Creighton stuff instead of just prepping for an opponent. And so we played Seton Hall that previous Saturday. We took Sunday and Wednesday off of that week, so we had 2 days off, which is good. And Monday and Tuesday we went and did a lot of Creighton stuff. And we went, pretty hard on Monday. We brought guys in on Tuesday and made it kind of scrimmage-like and, let some of the players who aren't getting to play as much scrimmage a lot, which I think is good this time of year to give them an opportunity to run up and down against our practice guys. And so we kind of got after those 2 days. And, again, we took Wednesday off, and then Thursday and Friday we got into DePaul and got ready for them. And yeah, I mean, I told the team, I said, coaches complain when they're playing 2 games a week every week because they think their team's going to get tired, and it's a lot, especially when you're on the road home. But we also complain when we have a week off because we think there's going to be some rust on the team. But I didn't think we had the rust. I really thought, DePaul came out in the first quarter, played really well. We were down 2 at the quarter, but I thought for the most part that was probably as good a game as we've played, start to finish as we've had recently. We've had we've won consistently coming out of Christmas break, but I thought it was one of our more complete performances. I really like what we did. Rebounding-wise, we out-rebounded them. We got 35% of our misses to 25% of theirs, which is something that we've been stressing is we have to be just a little bit better rebounding team. And so I was glad that we did that. I thought we weathered, the runs that DePaul went on were a little shorter than the runs that some of the teams that we played earlier had been on. So I think that was a good response by our team and a good win. DePaul had been playing well coming in. They were 4-2 in the league. So to win a 21-point game, I think speaks to how well we played.
Now, DePaul did something that I think that I'm a little surprised other teams haven't done, and they just committed to making Morgan Molly give the ball up. They had Jory Allen, their post defender, very long arms, long reach, and she just refused to allow Morgan to get any space to take the three-point shot. So trying to take her away from you. I've seen teams try to take Lauren Jensen away from you, but in this case, DePaul committed to taking away Morgan. And you guys adjusted very quickly and simply had Molly Mogensen and Lauren Jensen drive the basketball. Did you expect that coming into the game, and how quickly was that adjustment made?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, Glenn. You must have watched the game pretty closely.
I mean, I had to stat the match, so.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I thought they did not want to leave Morgan. She only took 7 field goal attempts, which is normally she's got 7 in the first quarter. But I thought to Morgan's credit, she didn't force anything. She was 4 out of 7. She rebounded the ball. And to your point, they gave no help on ball screens. Anytime Morgan set a screen on the ball, they gave almost no help with Allen. And it just allowed Molly and Lauren to get to the rim, which wasn't something that we had expected. I mean, in their film, they had shown different coverages of on-ball screens when Allen was defending the post player, and they just didn't give a lot of help. So it probably took us till middle of the second quarter to figure out that that's something that we wanted to rely more heavily on than normal. So normally, we'll screen on the ball for Molly, Kiani, and Lauren, but we're a heavier motion team, and so maybe we're 2/3 motion and 1/3, screening on the ball for one of those three. But boy, by the second half, just the way they covered, by just absolutely plastering themselves to Morgan and giving zero help, it just made more sense. And Molly and Lauren deserve a lot of credit for making layups, but Morgan deserves some credit too, because their game plan was not to let her, or one of the tenets of their game plan was not to let her get going, but it allowed two good players to get some layups, and so it's one of those where when you go into a game, sometimes you're guessing how they're going to play different people, and you've got a plan A and a plan B, and I thought my staff did a good job of, Carly's more in charge of she does more of the offensive stuff of any of the coaches, and she, by the end of the first quarter was like, okay, we got to run more screens on the ball, and so we did that, and to your point, I thought even though Morgan was held under double figures, she did a great job of letting the game come to her and doing her job to allow Molly and Lauren to get layups.
Let's move a little bit forward. We obviously play Butler. We're going to leave to go to Butler tonight and then play them tomorrow. But I'm going to focus first on Connecticut. That game coming up Saturday is at the CHI Health Center. Hope everyone joins and packs CHI as much as possible. It'll be right after the men's game. You made a comment during the post game after DePaul that it was one of the most important games in our history. That may be a little bit of hyperbole, but how important is this game against Connecticut in terms of this season and moving forward as you're bringing in a ton of recruits for that game?
Yeah, it was a lot of hyperbole, Glenn. I mean, I want everybody who was at our game, most everybody who was at our game this last weekend, if they've got nothing on their schedule, if they don't have something family-wise more pressing, they're probably going to be at that game because that's our core fan base. But I want them to bring their friends, and I think it's going to be a great environment. It's going to be a great opportunity. So it was definitely hyperbole, but at the same time, I think it's a measuring stick for where we are. I mean, we went to Kansas State, lost by almost 20. We lost by almost 30 to UCLA. Those are the two, elite teams that we've played, and we really haven't been competitive in either of those two games. And now we've got UConn at home. They're in that same class of quality of opponent, and I hope our kids relax and play. But yeah, I think it's a measuring stick game. We want to be competitive and have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and we've had that opportunity a couple different times. Unfortunately, it's been in stores, or our closer games with them have been on the road at their place. We have not. I think 3 or 4 years ago we did lead by 2 at half, but lost by about 20. But yeah, I think it's a good opportunity at home against a great opponent to kind of see, what kind of progress we've made in the last month since UCLA.
Thinking about Connecticut, I looked at the box score that they had this Sunday against Seton Hall, 96-36. When you look at that box score, what do you think?
Well, before I watched the film, I was certainly taken aback. I think, Seton Hall's a good team. You watch the film and you're like, well, Seton Hall got probably better shots than you would think. I mean, they had quite a few open shots in the first quarter and a half that, they made a much smaller number. And then transition defense is huge against these guys. Like, you have to get back on defense and you have to take care of the ball. And those are the things that are going to be super important because the game can get away from you quickly. And if that's the thing with UConn is if you can control the ball, not turn it over, and if you don't let them get into their running game, you got a chance to be in the game. If you don't do that, if you let them go up and down, and this year's UConn team really can get up and down. They don't rely, last year they had Aaliyah Edwards, an All-American post player, and while she ran the floor well, they also wanted to feature her in their half-court offense. They don't really have that. Their freshman, their smaller post player, the freshman Sarah Strong is a more mobile. She's almost like a big guard, so they don't really have to slow it down once in a while to throw it inside. They can, and they're deeper. This is a deeper team than they've been. They're healthier, so he's not playing kids 36 to 40 minutes. So they're able to keep that tempo really high. And having said that they beat, Seton Hall by 60, they also just played at Georgetown and won by 18. And, teams that can slow the game down a little bit have a chance to stay in there. Providence, it was, 67-41. It was really low scoring and ugly. But, we can't get into, I'm not saying we're not going to run at all, but we can't get into an up and down game. We have to get back and we have to take care of the ball.
We're going to transition. One of the things in the last couple episodes, we've had a chance for you to highlight some of the support staff, some of the staff itself, and when you do that, always you end up missing a few people, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the student managers, the other support staff, creative. Caleb Christensen, who's filming, never gets enough credit. Caleb has joined us this year and done an excellent job with film, and before him, Curtis Shore. Curtis did an excellent job. He went over to the Evil Empire, and we don't want to talk too much about that. But Curtis did an excellent job, and he's celebrating the Ohio State victory yesterday. I don't know that I am, but he certainly is.
Yeah, like you said, Glenn, things have changed just even in the last 3, 4, 5 years in terms of what a Division I basketball operation looks like. I mean, the social media piece is much bigger. It's lost on me because of my age, but my assistant coaches are quick to remind me how important it is. So what Caleb does, what Curtis did, those are opportunities to feature our program. It helps in recruiting. It helps in driving interest in our program. On campus, in the community, even across the landscape of our sport, and so that's huge. And then, like you said, the student manager piece. I mean, we didn't ever used to travel with a student manager. Probably the first close to 20 to 25 years that I was coaching here. If you include my time as an assistant, I mean, this is I think year 33, and I'll bet maybe for the conference tournament we would take a student manager. And now we travel with 2 or 3. But of course we have more equipment than ever before, and the athletic training piece alone, there's so many things, and then this generation needs tons of snacks and drinks and all the things that they do that and we give them a stipend, but it's not nearly what I mean, if you graded out what they're making per hour, it's hardly anything. Jamie Kinghorn has been here 4 years and done a fabulous job. She's but they're all really into sports. They're really into our team, and I think they add a great layer to what we're trying to get done.
Certainly come a long way from when you were driving vans up and down through the Missouri Valley, or when we were traveling. Just when this is my 13th year, and I remember just thinking about the difference in terms of where we're eating, instead of going to snacks that are coming from smoothie cafes or something like that, or different health options for the team. I remember stopping at Applebee's, or stopping at, there was one of the places you liked is right outside of Iowa City. There was a mall, and we would let people go, and you would end up eating at fast food restaurants, to be perfectly blunt.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, all that has changed. The nutrition piece, the sleep piece, the hydration, all that is, the science is so much further along than what it was even 10, 12 years ago. So it's good. I mean, I think the season is long, the travel is difficult. I mean, if you hear some of the Big Ten coaches talk about, traveling through multiple time zones and being on the road, we travel quite a ways, but, I think the fact that we're only one time zone different helps us. But yeah, it's a beast to, try to stay healthy through the whole year. And just the premium of taking care of your body is much greater than it was even 10, 12 years ago.
One of the things of this podcast, videocast, is an opportunity to dive into your history. So you've been known throughout my time as a motion offense, likes to shoot the three. But how did that begin? I know you came in as an assistant coach. How did you begin, and what is your history with the motion offense?
Yeah, well, when Connie got here, after after Bruce, moved into an administration, Bruce was running a lot of motion offense, and we kind of settled into, being a motion offensive team. And I think, it just makes sense from the standpoint that it's really hard to get players 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" at Creighton who are good. I mean, you can probably find somebody who's a complete project, but, and there's nothing wrong with looking at that, but I do think from a style standpoint, to get, have your post players be 6'1", mobile, skilled, is something that we kind of had when we first got to Creighton, and it just made sense to continue. And then even from we don't have a point guard dominant offense. I mean, we have, this year's team, we have 3 primary ball handlers in terms of, Lauren and Kiani and Molly, and we can put any one of the 3 on the ball. Last year we had Emma bring the ball up some. So I think it insulates you from injury issues when you play more positionless basketball. If you have somebody get hurt who was your point guard or your 2 player or your 3 or whatever, you can plug somebody in terms of being positionless. And I think I think it insulates you from injuries. It allows you, when players develop more quickly than you thought or less quickly than you thought, it allows you to plug them in or pull them out. So we were a motion offensive team, and then probably in the late, in the 2008 to 2010, I had kind of gravitated slowly a little bit away from that, and and then we had a year where we had some injuries, and I felt handicapped because we were becoming less positionless or more position oriented as a program, and I didn't like the feeling of feeling handicapped, so I kind of recommitted to being a motion offensive team. And the thing we try to do is we try to work on ball handling and decision making across our roster, so that Mallory Brake, who's not going to shoot a lot of perimeter shots, we're not going to let her put the ball on the floor too much, but she's, you look at her assist to turnover ratio, it's way better than a lot of posts because we work on ball handling, we work on passing, and I think that's a huge piece of what we're trying to do. So, and I just think the other thing is because so few people run true motion offense, it does give us an advantage against a lot of teams when they have to scout us, prepare for us, especially if it's a short window of preparation, which it might be, if it's a new coach or the non-conference or the NCAA tournament. So I think it gives you an advantage there too.
I want to close this week's episode with something a little bit fun. I mentioned you driving, so try and tell us, if you can, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, a funny story about either you driving a van, whether it was with basketball. I don't think you were necessarily driving vans, but you were a golf coach early in your career. So tell us a story about Flan behind the wheel driving for one of the Creighton teams.
Okay, so over the course of 2 springs, I took I don't remember what order, but I took the men one spring as the golf coach and the women another spring, because our only golf coach was Debbie Connery, and she couldn't be 2 places at once.
Right.
So one time when I was taking the men to Wichita, we stopped for lunch on the way down. I locked the keys in the van, so we had to call and get somebody to come unlock it. Okay, and then when we got to Wichita, it was really cold. So I had taken the team out to the golf course, and some of them said, "Hey, I didn't bring all my gloves. I need my hat. I need all this," because it was colder than they thought. They got out there and warmed up, and so I dropped them off, and I go back, get all their clothes, take it back to the course, and then, I'm going to go get some gas. Well, I ran out of gas, so I'm pushing the Creighton van through a neighborhood in Wichita to a gas station. So I had 2 mess ups on that one, and then the next spring when I'm taking the women, same thing. I'm trying to get gas with the van, and I backed into a pole in a gas station. So I don't know why the university kept letting me drive, but so anyway, I had to report that. Good times. I mean, I look back and I think, that some of the things that you were asked to do and got to do in the 90s, just because of how small our department was, it connected you to other coaches and student athletes, and I wouldn't trade those experiences.
All right, Coach, thanks again for joining us. One thing we're going to touch on next week, kind of tease this a little bit. I've been asked by fans, by fellow sports formation directors, and also by administrators about why you keep the team small. We've had 11 players each of the last few seasons. We're going to touch on that next week and what the benefits to that, and also talk a little bit about the drawbacks, because if you have an injury or two,
Yeah.
it shortens the bench even further. But we'll save that for next time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to watch us on YouTube, and we're going to move towards getting this on either a specific platform for Apple Podcast or something else. But thank you, Coach, for joining us.
Thanks, Glenn.